What's up, tennis players, tennis enthusiasts? Yes, it's Jeff Lewis Tennis here again. Today, I know what you're thinking. It's another Roger Federer serve slow motion analysis. I promise I'm going to try hard to point out some things here that Roger does that are unique to him and maybe haven't heard of in videos before. I think I have three things in particular that I really want to point out. Now, we're also going to point out some things that Roger does that all other pros do. And keeping in mind, we can learn from the pros. We can do things fundamentally that the pros do. They do things very efficiently. Now, we might not be able to do those things as fast and as powerful as them, but we can still learn when they have all these very similar motions that they do, these core fundamentals. And then at the end, for some fun, I'm going to try to recreate Roger Federer's serve. I've been working on it, probably more than I should have, so I'm curious to get your opinion if my serve that I tried looked like Roger Federer's. But first, the things that Roger does that most pros do, if not all. He is on a continental grip or near it. He is within that range of correctness. We can see some guys that get over a little bit. Naomi Osaka is not quite on continental. Ivo Karlovic, some other guys, but generally speaking, they're all going to have that grip that puts the edge of the racket to the ball. We're going to see most, if not all, pros pass the racket over their head in this hair brushing motion. That's very important because when that racket moves over your head, it's going to allow it to pick up a lot of speed and have the wrong side of the racket come around. Another thing we're going to see from all great servers, they look like they're going to chop the ball in half. This is the same for the first and second serve. And we're going to see how those body segments do turn in and turn out. We're going to show you how Federer does it a little bit more efficiently than other players, in my opinion. But either way, they still have that throwing motion. Racket comes around to the side. And then we're going to see that forearm pronate to the hit, out to the wristwatch position. That's what Fed does. That's what they all do. That's what we should be doing, is trying to emulate that. Throwing the wrong side of the racket at the ball, then pronating to the hit. And I think that's one reason everybody should be learning a spin serve first. And I'm going to put a link to my entire How to Serve course in the description here. So be sure to check that out, and you'll see how you can learn those same checkpoints as the pros. Now, what's unique to Roger? Well, I think Roger coils his body segments very efficiently. You can see here how he's turned his back to his opponent, and his shoulders are turned a little bit more than his hips, which are turned a little bit more to the knees than the knees, and he holds that position until he's ready to uncoil all those body segments at the same time. Whereas we can see here, Stan, despite his stance even, still just didn't get as much separation, has more of that knee bend pushing rather than knee torsion coiling look. And then his knees are uncoiled a little early, whereas we're going to see Roger each link come around together at the same time. So I just like how he holds that coiled position and everything really comes around together. Again, that's going to make it require less muscle. When you use less muscle, you can have more accuracy. And now, also with Roger, I just want to point out how he gets his shoulder tilt. I mean, we talked about those body segments in alignment. You know, we know you want to tilt your shoulders up towards the ball, but where a lot of guys, like say maybe Novak here, does it more with a back arch, he kind of gets that bow and arrow look. Roger keeps his body very straight throughout his knees. So you'll see his body segments stay in very good alignment. You'll see a straight line from his elbow to his shoulder, and you'll see his hips in a very similar line, and then his knees as well. And I think that allows the hip to connect to the hip segment to connect to the shoulder segment more efficiently than if you try to arch your back or have too much bow and arrow. So I like how he coils his body, bends his knees to get that tilt, to get that angle on the ball much more efficiently than a lot of other players, in my opinion. So those are a couple things just with how he positions his body that I think are very efficient. The other thing he does is you'll notice how Roger takes his racket back a little further than other guys, so he doesn't have as abbreviated of a motion as some other players. And I think when you take the tip of that racket back a little further, it allows you to start the bend. You know, once your swing starts, it starts by bending your elbow. So basically, he can start his swing earlier. He can keep his arm looser. He's going to get more momentum by having that racket come over his head. So in other words, where another guy might still be lifting the racket from the shoulder before the racket starts to drop. Federer's essentially being able to keep his arm looser and keep his racket initiating that motion over his head a little earlier. So he's going to be able to get a little looser. He's going to get a little more momentum going into that racket drop. And that's going to create more lag, create more kinetic energy, and essentially create more racket head speed. So I don't mind, and I even kind of like that extra backswing he takes on his backswing because I think it allows that racket to start moving the right way earlier. Okay, here's something crazy about Roger that I noticed while looking at many of his serves. I don't see this from any other pros. Roger keeps his eye on his opponent longer than anyone else I've ever seen. Look, even when the ball's about to release from his hand, his eyes are still looking at his opponent. Ball's out of his hand. His eyes are still looking at his opponent. And I think you see this a lot at various levels. But what this prevents, in my opinion, is that kind of last-minute hop skip where you kind of know where your opponent's going to kick it out to, namely the backhand or the forehand if you're lefty, on that ad side, and you'll kind of jump around at the last minute to whack a forehand. I don't see how you could do that to Roger. His toss isn't that high. He's looking at you when he releases it. You would have a very split second to start moving, and if you did, I don't think you'd have enough time to settle back in to be able to hit the shot you wanted. And there's lots of examples of that. I know I got some footage of Jack Sock here in Little Rock doing it against a player. You'll see him right here skip to the side right when his opponent serves, and then he's able to whack that big forehand. See, I don't think you could do this against Federer as easy, and you'd certainly be second-guessing yourself if you saw him staring at you right before he tosses the ball. So I think that's pretty unique to Roger as well. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Here's my serve. Try and serve like Roger. Let me know what you think. And again, please subscribe to the channel. Please like the video. Thanks so much for everyone's support. And I'll see you guys soon.